So we're calling the meeting to order. It's June 12th, and this is the regularly scheduled meeting for NID. So please join us in pledge of allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. So roll call, please.
Yes, Division 1. Here. Division 2.
Here.
Division 3. Shortly. Division 4.
Here.
5.
Here. Now we have public comment for items that are not on the agenda. So if you have public comment, please step up to the podium. Anybody from the audience from Zoom? Seeing none, public comment is closed. All right. Well, this is special orders, and Jennifer, you want to handle this as resolution of appreciation upon retirement for Shannon Wood.
Yes, and I think Doug's going to help out, but this is one of our most favorite things to do, and that is to recognize somebody for all their years. I am not seeing, where is Shannon? Oh, she's hiding. Shannon has been a fan favorite, I know, of the board and of staff for a long time. She has been here for many, many years. Her contributions have been great. She's definitely one of those staff members that you don't have to worry about. She's extremely competent, and she gets things done, and the public loves her. So she has been just a great person to work with, and we all are going to miss her, but we all are very excited for her. And I know Doug wants to say some words.
None of that's true.
And Shannon, you can kick him because you're gone, so HR won't get you.
So it's my pleasure to celebrate today Shannon Wood's 27 years of dedicated service to the district. You're welcome to give a shit. So she started back in 1997, and so I looked to see what was exciting in 1997, and really not much. The 90s are pretty boring. Fortran 95 was introduced, which nobody cares about.
I took that class.
You know, the lithium-ion battery was first introduced for commercial purposes. Music was Hanson and Spice Girls and Will Smith and all that really uncool stuff. So I thought, Shannon, being a baseball fan, maybe we should talk a little bit about what was happening in baseball back in 1997. The Miami/Florida Marlins won the World Series, first wild card team to do that, but not the last. 2014 Giants fans also won the World Series as a wild card team. Yep. Let's see, Pedro Martinez and Roger Clemens were Cy Young winners. Ken Griffey Jr. was the home run king with 56. The big one with McGuire and Sosa was the following year when they had that big marathon home run derby. But 1997, the Giants won the National League West, 2 games over the damn Dodgers. And we didn't even make the playoffs that year. So Shannon started in 1997 as a temp, worked as answering phones in the switchboard, which I originally thought was the old school switchboard, but we were a little more technical than that. She then got her first full-time job as administrative assistant for Carol Gates, which was the board secretary. And actually, Shannon filled in a few times as a board secretary during her roughly 5 years. I think you said you were working in that particular position, so she's been in Chris's hot seat a couple of times. She then switched over to admin assistant in operations, where she worked for both Terry Mayfield and Don White, where she then ultimately became the business coordinator, which then turned into the business services technician, which is what she's been doing since 2009. She was working under operations, but then saw the light a couple of years ago when she came over to the engineering. Didn't have to work for Chip anymore. She was pretty happy about that. So, business coordinator. Shannon is like the the face and the point of contact for the community for so many of the services that we provide, whether it's a developer needing the district finance, or excuse me, the developer needing the water line extension for development, whether it's private fire service for all the commercial stuff. I'm sure I'm missing some, but there's treated water services, there's variance requests, there's fire flow letters, there's will serve letters, there's all these different components that people utilize to our product, which is water. She's an important piece of that. She's done a very good job in terms of being the face of the district, very professional. She likes to, polite, but straightforward, right? There's no wishy-washy. She's gonna tell you what you need, what you can and can't do, which I think is very important in a position like that. One of the things that I think she takes pride in is we'll have discussions about, like, say, a variance request comes in. She'll bring a map and say, okay, Doug, here's this parcel, here's where treated water lines are. What do you think? Is this a variance or not? Say, nah, it looks like it needs to be a mainline extension. Then she'll pull up another map and say, hey, what's the difference between this one and this one that we talked about 3 weeks ago that you said was a variance? And then we have to sit down and have a long discussion to figure out what we should do. So I'm gonna miss that, because that was fun to go back and forth and to try to give the pros and cons as to what should be a variance, what should be a water extension, that type of thing. One of the other things she also does is any comments that come in from the cities and counties related to parcel developed, parcel split, a change in use, variance setback, canal setbacks, come to Shannon. She routes those around to the various departments, and then takes all that information and puts it in a legible format back to the county or city. I think one of the things she probably will not miss is trying to decipher everybody's chicken scratch, especially mine with regards to what our comments were. It's a big part of what she has to do. I think ultimately, District Finance Waterline Extension Program is really Shannon's bread and butter and program that I think she has the most passion for. It is a tedious process to go through that. You've got to multiple hours on the phone, you got to talk to folks, you got public meetings, you got private individual meetings, explaining things, trying to get herding cats, trying to get all these people into one room, especially those that, some of which are very dire in terms of the need for water. She's able to get through the program and get these folks the water that they're looking for. She's completed 9 of those in her tenure. And then we have 3 this year that are finishing up. Valley Lane is finished. Maranatha just passed pressure test, so it's wrapping up, and then Harris. So her legacy will continue on at least through the end of summer with regards to the program for the DFWLEs. So she's retiring on Thursday the 20th, which is her birthday, which is also her first available day to retire. I have people that have retired on their birthday, but I've never met one that actually retired on the first day of eligibility for retirement. So that's impressive. I give her a lot of kudos for that. She's also developed a tradition now of, you know, the little paper chains that you put in. So she did one all around her office for the whole year, this last year, and every day she'd come in and peel one of those off so that she counts down until her last day. Some of us get pretty jealous when you walk in a room and you see that chain getting smaller and smaller. Now it's only a couple of days. So that's kind of a new tradition now that we'll be using in the future. So when she does retire on next Thursday, they're going to go camping for the weekend, and then her and her husband Rob are moving to Arizona. Why would you move to Arizona? I don't know either. It doesn't make any sense to me. But apparently Shannon loves warm weather. Rob, I hope you do too. She has a grandbaby there. Although you will see her in town because she also has one here, as well as one on the way. And she likes spring training, Major League Baseball. So I think one of the cool things I found out was her and Rob have been to 16 Major League stadiums. And that her goal ultimately when Rob retires, which I can't tell you when that's going to be, buddy, they want to do all 30 in one season, which is going to be a feat. But it's something cool to look forward to in retirement. Before I wish her a final farewell, is there anybody else that would like to make any comments? Thoughts? The bad guy that she used to work for.
Yeah.
Talk smack about me, I got. In all seriousness, I've had the pleasure of working with Shannon for a number of years through her career, and she is the utmost professional. Probably one of the biggest advocates for NID's customers and customer base when they come into NID. She's always arguing from the customer's perspective, which we totally appreciate, because sometimes we get lost in policy and in the weeds minutia, and she brings us back. All right, put yourself in the customer's situation. What makes the most sense for NID and the customer? She's always looking to do that. And I will also say many of the letters in response to the state's regulatory issues have been routed through Shannon, because she is amazing at grammatical errors and typos, and she catches all of them and is a great proofreader. And you're sincerely going to be missed around here, and we are losing a great professional, but moving on to bigger and better things in Arizona. So, thank you.
Jim, Doug, thank you. Shannon, we got to know you during the water line extensions, and that was, the job you did was just incredible. Thank you. You helped us, made our job easier, and now 4 different communities have more water, treated water, so thank you.
Hey, Shannon. Thank you for all that you've done for our district and for our customers. You know, I got to work with you a little bit on some of these DFW LEs that happen to be a program that I really like and support, unlike other people in the room. But it was in part because you made it so seamless, you know, and people really appreciated you, and the feedback that I got from those ones that I worked on were just, oh my gosh, Shannon is superb, and you are superb, and I hope you enjoy Arizona, but you might want to take some water.
She is going to have a pool, so if you're ever down there.
Oh, right, okay.
Shannon, I want to thank you for your contribution to the district, and it was always a pleasure having you here, and I really appreciate the job you did.
That's Shannon. Excuse me, no stronger service-oriented employee at NID. Your advocacy and support of the district finance water line extension program was so impressive, and I always appreciated the heart that you brought to that program. And you were, I think, single-handedly really advanced the efforts, especially these last 4 projects that you. Thank you.
So I guess my comment's a little more personal. When you buy property, you get a lot of really bad advice about energy and other utilities. I was told you would never get water on your ranch, and we started a journey like 9 years ago, I think, and it took about 5 years. But we have 6 minor inches of water on our ranch, and wouldn't happen without you, so appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the kind words. I really appreciate it. It's challenging to work here sometimes because you do get some of that feedback from the outside and whatnot, but it's been a pleasure to help people internally and externally while I've been here for the 27 years. But on more of a personal note, I am so excited to retire. I'd like to say the 27 years went quickly, but really it didn't. It's true what they say, that the days are long, but the years are short. And so that's why Rob and I decided to go for it. Like, it's, many would say that I should be waiting another 5 years, but really life's too short, and I don't want to, so we're not. When I think about it, though, working here has impacted my life in a lot of different ways. I've made some of my best friends because I've worked here at NID. And I've met my husband because I worked here at NID. And my kids were 5 and 4 months old when I started. I feel like I've given them an example of a hardworking, independent parent because I worked here at NID. So Now my kids are grown and starting careers and families of their own. I already have 2 grandchildren and another on the way. And I'm ready to have new adventures. And I want to be a grandma. I want to explore a new state. And I might just want to do whatever I want to do on a Tuesday morning. Not sure what it is. So over half my life, I've been making that right-hand turn into this driveway, walking into this building. And I know it's going to be weird not to, but I think I'm going to get used to it. Thanks, NID.
If the board so desires, I think it would be appropriate to have a little cake break.
Yes.
Yeah, so we celebrate with Shannon and her family for a few minutes.
They brought donuts
You got it.
just for you.
I love donuts.
I know, we were told that.
So we will resume, and whenever we resume, we'll take Shannon, please.
Yeah.
So we're back live,
We are.
and we're going to the consent agenda.
First, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Any discussion? Public comment on consent agenda? Seeing none, public comments closed. Roll call, please.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 3. Aye. Division 4,
Aye.
Division 1,
Yes.
Division 5.
Yes. All right, now we have a workshop item, and Brandon Sanders is here. Thank you, Brandon, for coming. The rules of engagement on a workshop is that it is a free-flowing collaboration of ideas back and forth, as long as you're moving the agenda forward. So I just got a comment that, Brandon, thank you for being here, because you got to look at Brandon as, yes, worked for PG&E spokesman, but he's also our conduit, that we get questions to him, and he can carry them to his people. That's simple. Do you have a statement to start with, or should we go right to the director's comment?
Yeah, if I may, Chairman, Directors, good morning. For the public, my name is Brandon Sanders. My role for PG&E is a local government affairs representative covering our Sierra division to include Nevada County. I've been attending these meetings, providing updates as I'm able to get those from the operational team. I'll start with the easy stuff. So the update on the South Yuba pipe repair. This is the 240-foot section of steel pipe that was destroyed in a rock slide back in a winter storm. That work is progressing on schedule. No concern with the communicated schedule to NID's operational team at this time. That work is progressing well. No safety incidents to date on that piece of the operation. In terms of the repair to the structural columns and the substructure of Spalding 1 powerhouse, that work is also on track. No emergent issues or new concerns with that. That work is on schedule and proceeding according to plan and schedule. Those are sort of the two of the three sort of major updates I have for you today. The third update, and I believe this information has already been socialized through Yuba-Bear and elsewhere, is that we are facing a substantial delay compared to what was originally communicated on the return to service of Spalding 1 powerhouse and the conveyance associated with that. That singular cause of that delay to late July is relative to the welding work on the liner for the discharge horn. This is a 3/4 inch steel that we're having to weld on plate or dogs, if you will, so that we can jack it into position, and then subsequently do highly precise, meticulous welding to further install that and secure it for future use. And so it's unfortunate. I know I came in here multiple times communicating my confidence in the original timeline. Certainly not a good look for me or the company, but you know, I just want to assure you that we're taking the necessary steps to do the work right. We're talking very tight tolerances with this welding work of less than 1/16 of an inch. We have to get it right the first time to avoid any future delay. And so The welding work is progressing. We did attempt to insert a third welder into the very confined workspace. We determined that it was not safe to do so simply because of the proximity of 3 people in that workspace. Obviously, welding is hazardous inherently, and then the arc flash being so close to the adjacent operator and the grinding work not being able to be deflected from the adjacent worker. And so unfortunately, despite our efforts, we were not able to insert a third welder into the confined workspace. And that option is no longer available to us just simply due to that confined workspace. Beyond that, I'm going to continue to attend these meetings, field feedback, inquiries from the board, and I'll just commit to doing that on a going forward basis as I have. The only item beyond that I want to share, and then we can go into the workshop, is there was a question at the last meeting around our project work at Lake Fordyce, upstream of Spalding Reservoir. I was able to secure a publicly available sort of 2-page fact sheet on that work, if you will, that I've provided to Jennifer. And she is more than welcome to share that, of course, with the board, as well as publish that to the NID website if folks are interested in seeing that. But that work generally involves a multi-year project to replace the liner on the dam to mitigate seepage and render that facility reliable off into the future. So that document is with Jennifer now. And that concludes my prepared comments. Happy to field any questions. Thank you.
Brendan, thank you, and I'd like to go to Ricky
Thank you.
for her comments.
Once again, colleagues, I do have quite a list of questions, so appreciate your patience. So my understanding now is that the date of June 18th that you had such high confidence of has been pushed to the end of July, which is a 42-day delay. What is your degree of confidence that we will get to the end of July and have this fixed?
Based on how the work remaining has been described to me, I remain confident in this new date. It's simply that the work is taking longer than we originally anticipated, and we need the time to get it right so that it doesn't become an issue off into the future. One thing I will say is that the work on the first discharge horn is very much going to inform the follow-on work to the second when we take that subsequent outage over the winter to repair the second horn. So I think if there's any silver lining here, it's that our learnings in replacing the first unit will be very beneficial, and those lessons will be applied and hopefully mitigate any delay on the second sort of suite of work.
Could you elaborate? I mean, you did say, gave a brief description of the reason for this delay being repair and welding in horn 1. Could you give a little bit more data or a little bit more color on what happened in there that is causing the welding problem that you just described?
Well, I wouldn't describe it so much as a problem, just it's taking longer than anticipated given the precision that needs to be put into those welding activities and then the tight tolerances. There's no wiggle room, there's no room for error, and so that's how it's been explained to me. We just simply underestimated the amount of time it was going to take to complete that precision work.
Okay.
Can I just comment? Mm-hmm. I'm just flabbergasted by that kind of response. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is not something that should come as a surprise, and I don't direct it to you, Brandon, but as a company. I mean, it'd be one thing if we learned that the delay, because of this complexity of the welding, might take another week. But to take another 5 weeks, 6 weeks, it's just flabbergasting. And it makes me wonder how much we can have any confidence whatsoever on anything that's being presented to us. Really, I mean, I'm just stunned by the lack of what I would call professionalism and technical expertise coming into the analysis of this project. And it's to have 2 weeks ago, we're right on track, no problem, to another 42 days, I just think it's outrageous.
If I may, so the welding itself is not going to take an additional 42 days. what that's causing is for the maintenance and startup activities and the inspections and the testing to be pushed off in the schedule. So it's not that we need 42 more days to complete the welding. It's that the longer duration to complete that work is pushing other components of the project further off into the future.
Sure, but I mean,
When did
you plan for this?
I don't have a date, but I can ask.
We'd like to, I think at this point, you need to, we need a detailed schedule.
Well, we've been asking for
So that
that.
we can have the checkpoints, so that we don't get to another 42-day slip.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So, we have a schedule, but PG&E's only released it underneath the confidentiality provision of the coordinated operating agreement, and I'd like to request that PG&E remove that confidentiality of it so we can release it. Because because one of the things that's a challenge is that, you know, as a number of board members have just stated, so since we last met, which was what, May 22nd? The date went from June 19th to June 30th to July 11th, and now July 30th. I do understand that there are some challenges with the welding. What I'm having a hard time understanding is the additional delays associated with the maintenance and operation work related to the startup. And I've asked this question, and I've received somewhat of an answer, but I'd like a more detailed answer as to what exactly are those activities, and are they actually necessary to be done, or are we trying to squeeze in more work while we're in an outage period? Because if we can circumvent or shorten up some of those activities, we can get some days back. And I haven't really received an answer to that question yet.
Excellent question. I will ask. I've just been told in general terms that there are activities that need to occur before we can turn everything back on, but I can ask for finer detail on that.
Yeah, well, it's my understanding that those extra days have added almost a couple of weeks to the schedule. So I think we all know that restarting of a powerhouse obviously does require some inspections and different maintenance activities, and it is also my understanding that there has been quite a bit of debris that has kind of gotten loose in the powerhouse from the demo operation, which would require cleaning of the facility so that it doesn't have a future maintenance issue or a break. But it just seems to be somewhat excessive, and I want to understand, are we doing only what's absolutely necessary to restart the powerhouse, or are we doing more work than is absolutely necessary to start water flow?
It's a fair question, and I will certainly seek out finer detail on what those activities are beyond the welding. I don't have that information today, I'm sorry, but I will certainly ask.
You know what, I have been, I need to ask you a very specific question. I've been given some information prior to this 42-day delay that the actual cause of it was that PG&E, with an effort to put this liner or the welding component into concrete that had not been fully cured. And that your efforts, in other words, you didn't let the concrete cure properly, and then you put this thing in there, and then now you got to like restructure. And can you confirm whether or not there is a problem with not allowing the concrete tube, if you will, or horn, to have cured in a proper amount of time?
Yes, that is not true.
It's not true.
It's not true, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. I have a few more questions, everybody, sorry. Has there been a pressure test done to determine if, in fact, it will be possible to get 400 CFS through the system in order to help us get some water?
Through the single horn?
Yeah,
Through the single horn?
I do believe like engineering calculations have occurred, but I think we need to complete the repair and do the testing necessary to validate that. But the engineering calculations, I believe, are such that it can accommodate that level of flow.
Okay, but there's not been any kind of testing?
That would be a follow-on activity as part of the restart.
And when you do a test, will you be able to share those results with NID?
I would imagine that under the coordinated operating agreement, the operational teams from both sides would be privy to that information. I don't have it, or I can't say that I'll be able to share it with the board, but I'd imagine it'll certainly be available to your staff.
Has the schedule for the repair of the second horn also been pushed back? I mean, the date that was given last time you were here was October 15th. And while that has past our irrigation time, I'm just wondering how the second horn is doing in relationship to all of these difficulties and delays you experienced with the first one.
I don't have a good answer for that, Director.
Did you find out for us?
I certainly will ask you. I'm not sure if Jennifer might know. I've not seen the schedule myself. I'm just it's being
The
explained.
start of the replacement of the second horn was October 15th. And they had,
The start.
the start. But that does bring me to a question, is there, because of this extended outage that's now associated with this additional schedule delay, can PG&E begin any of the work on the second horn to facilitate expediting that second outage?
That's a great question. I can certainly ask. I don't know. I will ask.
So since the, two of those 4 columns failed, has there been an inspection on the other 2? Meaning, how do we know that the other 2 are in okay shape, that they will be able to function? Or are you going to repair the 2 that are crumbled, or my word, and then, oh gosh, next year we're going to have the other 2 crumble, or the other 2 fail?
I've not heard of any concern with the remaining structures, just the 2 that were in question. I can confirm.
The hearing of a concern, though, is really different.
Well, I would have been told if there were concerns with the other columns.
Has there been an inspection then?
Yes, I mean, we're down in the space every day, 2 shifts since it started, so if there was a concern at this point, it would have been identified by now. I can't imagine that Jennifer and her team or myself would be made aware of any further issues. I mean, it's very clear that it's the 2 columns that are being repaired or nearing complete, the horns and the pipe. If there were other issues, I can't imagine I would not be aware of that.
See, that's the thing that's so interesting, is a lot of these things, when we question you don't know, then you just said, well, I would know if there is an issue.
Well, that's one of those items that would have been disclosed as part of our coordination on the repair.
You can see it, in terms of Karen's comment, it's really hard for us as a board and the public to have much trust in PG&E because, well, I'm sure you are just a wonderful person, and this is not personal to you, but the trust that we don't have is in your superiors. And I don't believe that PG&E has been straight with us or the community over many, many things, but our water situation has been one of them. And
I will confirm and follow up on whether or not there were any concerns identified or if inspections occurred on the remaining structural columns. That
have there
should
been
be.
any injuries to anybody?
No, we've had 0 safety incidents at this point.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So, as always, we will get you a list of questions that
Sure.
are asked today, and so we get the answers. But you said there's 2 shifts. Are they 8-hour shifts or are they 12-hour?
I believe we're working 24/7 in the whole.
So they're 12-hour shifts.
Have you guys, has PG&E inspected the tunnel? Because, one of the things that would be really bad, of course, is if you get all this other work done and then the tunnel collapses. Do we know the structural integrity of it?
To my knowledge, it's fully intact, but I will also confirm that and follow up.
And then how does PG&E, this delay has, some catastrophic implications for our ag community and a rolling problem with our economic development and our small businesses and our tourism, and you just go right on down the line. The economic impacts to this is substantial. So what I want to know is, how does PG&E propose to compensate the ag community specifically for any losses that they are about to have?
There's no mechanism for that under our regulatory or funding structure. This is an extraordinary event.
Yes.
It's not something that PG&E put upon the community. It's really just an extraordinary event between the landslide and the damaged equipment. To my knowledge, there wouldn't be a mechanism for us to compensate certainly we have a claims process, but that's typically for damage that we caused or, damaged driveway or something like that. But, to my knowledge, there wouldn't be a mechanism to do that.
Can I just ask, so, the determination of whether this is an extraordinary event beyond PG&E's control is yet to be determined and will be determined as a result of a fact-finding that takes place later by a combination of PG&E, NID, and perhaps other independent parties. So I would personally would be cautious about affiliating that determination until that analysis is done.
That's a fair statement. I'm just going on the information I have, so.
Brandon, I have a big ask.
Sure.
Every one of my neighbors, ranchers, farmers, are so nervous, so concerned. And whatever goodwill PG&E might have had, the ag community is losing it. So I would like to see PG&E as a gesture of goodwill fund the construction of 5 ponds on ranches and farms in Placer County, and 5 ponds or ranches and farms in Nevada County, hook up to the electric pumps that need to run them, and then have a loan or something, a 0% loan, to allow the construction of the pumping systems and the distribution systems. Because as an owner of a pond, I am less affected than my neighbor who relies strictly on NID water to irrigate around and around. I can fill my pond and go a week, a month, or whatever, depends on the season, and not be affected. I want my neighbors to have that luxury also of not being stressed that, hey, there's no water next week. And wow, their crops are drying up. And we have an emerging, I was at a Sierra Harvest meeting class last night, 20 young kids wanting to farm here. And you're telling them, hey, water is not reliable because PG&E is not reliable. And that is going to kill this emerging ag force that's coming to Nevada County, and we need it for public security or food security. We need it for everything. If somebody was a vandal and cut off our water, right, a vandal, they'd be called a terrorist because they're talking about food security. That's part of a definition. But when PG&E does it, even though they knew Powerhouse 2 was out last year, that was our primary way of getting water, there was no urgency. And yet the repercussions in the ag community is going to be so great. But anyway, I'm looking for a goodwill gesture.
I will ask and see what can be done.
If I do more than 5 ponds per county, I'm happy.
I will ask, but I don't believe we have a funding mechanism. We're very tightly regulated in terms of how we spend ratepayer.
But you know, there's gonna be a lot more damage done to our farming, ag, and ranching community than 5 ponds would ever in the world address.
I'm not saying 5 ponds take care of that. I'm just saying it's a goodwill gesture. There's more to be determined, like Ricky said later. So that's my big guess.
So you do not have any kind of mechanism to help compensate our agricultural community for their losses that they will have?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. What is PG&E's plan for some kind of an immediate and large-scale public outreach conservation program? Because people now need to know this is serious, this is no longer, it'd be really nice if you could conserve, this is how to conserve water.
Would it be possible to take here to Denver on what is the analysis regarding our water and how we're going to address it? Because that may help answer that question, Ricky.
Well, that's true, but you know, there's what NID can do, and then there's what PG&E can do. And since they're the source of the problem, it seems to me PG&E should be front and center on a conservation plan and a messaging plan. And then NID can bolster side by side, we can work together, whatever. But I do want to know, does PG&E have any kind of a plan?
We've been doing a lot of media and other outreach around things like river safety and all of that. But I mean, I don't think that it's our role to
tell people you're going to be out of water. It's not your role.
I think that would more fall to NID as the water provider. You know, I don't think that I mean, I can certainly ask if we can do some messaging. I don't know that it would be any more or less impactful than what NID is doing. But maybe I can talk with our PIO who's working with your team and PCWA's team to see if we might fold something into our regular messaging.
I think it's appropriate that PG&E would take some position on it. It is you who's responsible. Therefore, it seems like it would take the helping to tell what they can do and not do during this crisis. With that, I'm happy to ask Jennifer what.
I have a few questions before we shift here. So, are you utilizing subcontractors for these, NID?
Mix of both.
Okay, so can we see the proposal from the subcontractors, statement of work, and the contract?
I have no idea. I would imagine that would be governed under the COA, but,
Can at least staff be given those, or can you go ask?
well, it would be Jennifer asking.
I'm curious to see what your contractors proposed as the original fix, what your statement of work back to them was, and how that's in line with the schedule that we're clearly not adhering to today. And I think that those documents are critical, because somebody with expertise or lack thereof made a proposal, somebody accepted a proposal and gave a statement of work and a contract was signed.
Yeah, we have not yet seen any construction contracts, but that would be helpful for us to better understand how the schedule is flowing, and as Director Calder just said, what is somewhat driving some of the delays.
Yeah, my concern would be if the contractor has met their schedule and the end date given to us continues to slip. Because regardless of what the next part of the conversation is, we have to assume that this is not going to be fixed until October 15th when the water shuts off. Because there's no data point in the last of March that shows that we can trust any of these data. So, like, if we come up with a plan for partial being turned on July 30th, it's a waste of time. Because they're not going to make July 30th. We need to, maybe we do two plans, not saying not to plan, but there needs to be an October 15th plan, which is what I projected as Farm Bureau when we first conveyed that this is Armageddon. I mean, the lakes are going to be dry.
I agree with your point. I think it's an excellent one, and I think absolutely sure that the work being done is for the repair that expedites water to our customers. That needs to be validated.
You know, it was back to this idea of messaging from PG&E. You know, this delay, this 42-day delay, did not make, there was never a news release. It was a post on Nextdoor. It's the only way that the public was informed of this. There was not a general news release. So, again, it's like, come on, you guys. You know, this is really serious. Let's get the word out to people of what is going on here. And a post at 11 o'clock at night on Nextdoor doesn't do it.
Yeah, I can take that back. I'm not involved in that. I'm not involved as closely in that piece of it. So.
I believe there was, PG&E did a press release late last night, so.
Yeah, it was at 11 o'clock last night.
But I don't think it was just Nextdoor. I think that they released it further than that.
I know.
Nope, it was just on Nextdoor.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah, that doesn't work. That's right. It's a problem in messaging and getting the word out.
Yeah, that's not something I control, but I will.
I understand, but it is something that you should carry back.
Absolutely.
That we are not happy.
Absolutely.
Well, it looks like a purposeful deception.
Right. It looks like hiding behind a curtain and hoping that only a few people will find you. It's like hide and seek.
Well, I'm not hiding.
No, I'm not saying you are at all, but I am saying that you have superiors who are.
That's all the questions I've been asked anyway, so I'm listening. But I concur with Sharon's statement of being flabbergasted at powerhouse that was built in 1912, whenever it was built. They welded at that time. That's a long time ago, that we didn't know that this was what it would take to fix this today. And it was not expedited to do that. That's just unacceptable and outrageous to me, and I'm also frustrated by this whole conversation about, we have no part to expedite. I know that there's expediters out there, you can read about them in the paper, when a north pass falls down, it's fixed in 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
and they
your
made
point,
millions of
C.C.
dollars.
Myers, let's get C.C. Myers out there and have him fix it.
Right.
Even
I
Christmas.
just don't see that this kind of, there's no emergency on the part of PG&E to get this fixed. It's just, well, this is what's happening. I'm done.
Yeah, the bridge falls down in Baltimore, and they have it fixed in 3 weeks. I mean, come on, there's something wrong here.
Brandon, I just had a couple of follow-up questions if the board will allow me to ask them.
Okay.
So Brandon, we had requested a root cause analysis to be completed for what transpired to allow the situation to occur, and it is from our view, a requirement under PG&E's current utility procedures. We haven't heard back related to that request. Do you know if that is being considered and what the decision has been?
First, I'm hearing of that request, but I will ask.
Okay. And then we have also made a request to release the formal detailed schedule. Director Calder has requested for the construction contracts to be released under the COA if possible, which we have not yet seen. And then Director Heck did bring up a comment that has been consistent in our request to PG&E, and that is related to the actual ability to put 400 CFS through that first horn once it's completed. We have requested any background information or background data, the engineering analysis, which it's my understanding has been previously completed, but that data hasn't been released. Is there any way that you could take that also back to your leadership? Because that is, as I think the frustration you're hearing is that this date has continuously changed. And the board has to make some very difficult decisions. These decisions have the ability to impact people's livelihoods, the community, and it's becoming fire season. We've already had probably 3 or 4 fires in just Nevada County. People start getting really nervous when water is out, and rightfully so. We have to start having more confidence in the schedule. And right now, I'm having no confidence in the schedule. Just since we last met on May 22nd, the schedule has changed 3 additional times. We went from June 18th, and now we're at July 30th. That's a huge schedule bust. We have got to start receiving some more detailed information. And I know that there are some legal risks that PG&E is likely considering underneath the coordinated operating agreement, but I think that those risks need to be put aside in the benefit of the community.
And I can certainly advocate for the release of those documents to your operational team. I can't commit that it will happen, but on behalf of the team, ask again.
Okay. The root cause analysis, I think, is extremely important, and so is any engineering data related to the ability to move 400 CFS through that one horn.
Understood.
And then, just as a reminder, I would also like it to be explored a little bit more if any of the second horn work can be completed while we're in this extended outage period. And then whether or not the extended schedule delays related to the startup operations and maintenance can be shortened up. And whether or not all of that work is actually necessary. We're kind of under the understanding that before, the horns may have not been only used during startup and shutdown for pressure relief. And based off of recent conversation, it sounds like some of the maintenance and operation work is being completed to operate the powerhouse as originally intended. So I need to better understand how much water is going to be going through those horns and what is changing with the operation between what was happening before and now, just so we can have a higher confidence level in what deliveries we'll actually have during return to service.
I'm tracking on all those, and I'll have the video available to me to make sure I get it right.
And we'll follow up. We had sent a couple of letters, more letters. I know we sent a ton of letters, so apologize for that. But we had sent some additional letters in mid-May timeframe, and we haven't received responses to them yet.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay.
Now that I am, see what I can help with.
Okay, thank you. It's like,
This is a workshop, so you can get up anytime. Any comment from people on Zoom?
Can we have, is there an assessment, Jennifer, on, you know, what is the impact of this July 30th date?
yes, but that's the next agenda item.
Next workshop.
Yeah. There is somebody raising their hand.
Jody.
Jody.
Yeah. Jody, you're on.
Good morning. I feel like I'm becoming a member of the board. I wanted to go back to Ricky Heck's comment about the responsibility that PG&E is. I think the main thing is that when we're in recreation, we own the boat rental business on Rollins Lake. So we are constantly confronted with people trying to blame NID for all of this. They're just trying to make more money off of us. They're just trying to do this. And I am personally telling them every single solitary day, no, it's PG&E that has nothing to do with NID. This is all PG&E. It's all out of everybody's hands. And I think that's what Ricky wanted. She just makes some sort of acknowledgement that this is out of everybody's control except PG&E. So I think that would be a beautiful thing if PG&E were to make a statement and say, hey, this is all us, we're doing the best we can.
Good point, Jody.
Yep.
The second thing I want to...
Just thank you for standing up for us. So your second point?
Jody, you muted yourself.
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Way back when all of this started, we were all talking about devastation. It's going to be devastating, devastating, devastating. And it actually looks like that's going to come to some sort of fruition. So what are we looking at for next year's flow? Like, is this time just we're sitting here every day watching this water drop like nobody's business. And it's not even mid-June yet. So does PG&E have any kind of flow, or is Chip around? He's the mathematician. He does all the.
We do have some of the information that will be part of the next item.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned, Jody. We'll get it answered.
And then my final comment on all of this is what's NID or PG&E or any representative? Has there been any call for a state of emergency at this point?
And we have some additional information for the board that we'll talk about during the next item as well, so stay tuned.
Okay.
Well, we did do an emergency declaration.
Yes, we did.
NID has done ours.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, awesome. I didn't know that. Okay. Thank you for your time.
We just may have to go to
DEFCON 5. Right.
Hi, Michael Taylor, District 1. I'd like to point out what I'm observing. I'm observing this gentleman from PG&E is saying that he's the spokesperson for PG&E. And it's a little bit frustrating to hear that he's not actually the spokesperson for letting people know that they're going to have water delayed further. I think you've taken on that responsibility, and you publicly said that this is your responsibility as far as communications and being available for communications. And I think it's a responsibility that PG&E develops a plan for better communication with the public. And it appears that you're standing up saying that you're this person, but then at the same time you're saying you're not that person. So my recommendation would be that PG&E figure out a better plan for communicating with the public. As far as a gesture of goodwill from PG&E, I think that if they were to look at the long-term responsibility of this first mile of these pipes and these pump houses, that they offer it to PG&E for $1 after they're fixed, and then you guys manage them and take care of it. It seems like PG&E is not managing these pump houses or powerhouses.
Their facilities, their infrastructure.
Yeah, they're not managing it properly to avoid these kind of situations. I think after you guys are comfortable that the inspections have been done properly and all the annual stuff is done and it's all been checked, that PG&E sells it to you guys for $1 and you guys take it over. That would be a gesture to compensate the community for this lack of responsibly dealing with our infrastructure. I had one more thought and I already forgot it. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any more public comment? I don't have it in front of me.
There's another hand raised.
Nevada County.
Okay, Nevada County Cannabis Alliance.
Good morning, board. My name is Diana Gamzon. I'm the executive director of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance, and we represent over 160 farmers. And yeah, this is just a tremendous impact to everyone in our ag community. It impacts fire preparedness, our food supply, economic development. It has a potential to destroy some of our historic traditional ag farms. And I just want to give my really strong appreciation to the NID Board of Directors and Jennifer for being such fierce advocates on behalf of the public. And we, the public, we need more information from PG&E. The requested items for root cause, engineering analysis. This is so important as major decisions are made. And I'm hoping that this information and answers can be brought back to both the NID board, but also to the public earlier than the next board meeting, the next NID board meeting in 2 weeks, because yeah, there's a lot that needs to be determined. And thank you, board, for all of your work.
Thank you, Diana. You have an estimate of how it's hurting your operations?
Well, a lot of people have been taking the conservation, the 20% conservation very seriously. And really the next steps of the planning and what decisions come out of this board meeting will really show. There's a lot of fear, as I know, not just for the crop we produce, but all crops, for what a rotation schedule would look like if there's 3 days on, 3 days off. I mean, that's disastrous. Your crops can't go without water for 3 days. So it will be just, yeah, we'll really see after the decisions are made.
Okay, well, thank you.
You know, I just want to respond to somebody's statement, but, you know, it is frustrating, Brandon, that you have to say in so many cases, well, I can take that up, well, I don't know, or, you know, it might be, you know, in the secret realm or, you know, whatever, subject to the confidentiality. So while I commend you for sitting here and taking all the flack, I truly, really do. Yeah. Okay, but I do believe that the time has come for PG&E to provide this board and the public with somebody who is permitted to be able to speak to these issues, give us the truth. So this is, I have a request that PG&E then next send somebody, a superior, Paul Moreno, or somebody who is
they have on-the-ground facts.
Oh yeah, that they have facts and that they don't just deflect and say virtually nothing, which is, I'm certain, part of what you've been told to do. And you do a nice job of it. But I think we need, if the time has come, that we need to have somebody here accountable to the community and to us. So that's my official request.
Tag onto what Ricky's saying, we're past the time where we can wait 2 weeks for an answer.
That's right.
Based off of that, what I'm hearing, and also the next item will address some of the recommendations staff is going to make. But that information is based off of something that was outdated within 23 hours. So
I didn't make today's agenda.
Right. So, but my recommendation to the board, if you're willing, can we schedule a special meeting for next week so that we can bring back another item and then also have PG&E available to respond to some of these questions? I know the public's getting very nervous, as well as the board. Right. And
but I really think it has to be somebody other than Brandon who is empowered to answer questions.
Who's there?
Well, I think that the challenge from Brandon's perspective is likely that he's a government relations person and he's not in the hydropower division.
So you need
so potentially we can ask Steph Maggard to attend, or Tyler or somebody.
Yeah,
I'll make that request.
I totally get it. I mean, I understand. I mean, I'm doing the best to share the information as I have it.
Right,
I certainly understand.
we get it.
Yeah, so.
Brandon, this is your get out of jail free card.
That's also right. Yeah, we're giving you an exit strategy.
I don't take any of it personally. I mean, I'm an advocate for PG&E, but I'm also an advocate for local government. I'm a customer, so,
What canal are you on?
for little, hey.
Just making my list.
There might be some managers on that canal.
I would just like everyone to be nice to my constituents.
You might turn off
Yeah.
So, an example of that is I asked if there was 8-hour shifts or 12-hour shifts, and the standard reply from, well, we're doing 24/7. But is it 24/7 in the tunnel?
I can
Or is it 8 hours of whatever?
I've got a number of things that I believe I had the answer to and I shared, but I will confirm those, Dave. The disposition of the other 2 columns, the work schedule in terms of man hours being applied or employee hours being applied day by day. I can ask all those questions and likely get most of those answers. I just don't have them with me here today.
And how many humans are actually, I mean, contractors and PG&E people? You know, I know that the one thing has got a very narrow space. It sounds like you only can have 2 people in there at a time. But, you know, what else, there's other jobs that other humans can do.
Absolutely. There's a large cadre of folks working on the South Yuba pipe. Those foundations are being completed and all of that. There's folks in the Spalding 2 powerhouse. There's folks in Spalding 1. There's, of course, engineering support in the trailers up in the Spalding parking lot. There's logistics. There's air operations. There's a lot of people working at various times throughout the day in various.
That would be a really great part of a press release that went out. It's like, how many people does PG&E actually have on this?
Sure.
They have 50, or they have 100, or whatever the number is, and we got 10 people doing this and 20 people doing this. I mean, just so that people know.
He gave us those details. It was like 7 in the powerhouse at any
I don't think you
time,
could fit any
like 29 on
any
the
more than a half dozen.
So
Yeah.
maybe just a refresher.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to ask the board, I'm not sure if you had seen it, but we did produce an informational video that shows the inside of the powerhouse and
Yes,
so so you have seen that, okay?
thank you.
So for folks on the Zoom or in the audience, if you go to YouTube and you just search PG&E Spalding Reservoir, it's a high-level overview of the project, but it does show you, it does illustrate with visuals the inside of the workspace, and I found it informative having.
Yeah, the distribution of it is the other side of it.
So we could maybe.
How do you get it out there?
We could press that a little bit.
Yes.
So, and you did mention Paul Moreno. So Paul Moreno is sort of my counterpart in the media space. So,
Okay.
so I'm responsible for interfacing with government entities. Paul interfaces with like Pascal at Yuba-Bear and the union and Cancio, like that's kind of his bailiwick, and I'm over.
Mm-hmm.
We would want an operations person.
Yeah, we want an operations person.
Hang on,
Yeah.
Michael. Yeah. Michael Hildwell, please.
You're muted, Michael.
Sorry, thank you. Good morning. I'm very glad to hear the board pressing PG&E for real information. And if it takes a panel of PG&E employees coming to the NID board meeting to be able to answer your questions that you've been asking for almost 2 months now, then it takes a panel. But they're sending one fellow who's not able to answer the range of questions that you've been asking repeatedly is really offensive. The other thing is, Director Hack talked about PG&E helping to fund the information going to the public on water conservation. Communications cost money, as you all know, as you manage the NID budget. And PG&E, in my opinion, should be spending money telling NID residents how to conserve water, because they're the source of the problem. They need to be part of the solution. And that information ought to be going out to NID residents on a regular basis and ought to be funded by PG&E. So thank you very much. And I'm sorry you're in the position you're in.
Yeah. Michael, thank you. Bill, Michael Taylor.
I just remembered what the other question I had. The pipe, pump house or powerhouse 1, when it comes back online, you guys are predicting that it's going to produce or move 400
CFS.
CFF?
Cubic per second.
Okay. And my question is that pipe rated for that amount? And is that the normal amount of water that goes through that? Or is this going to be more water than it's had in the past? And if so, is that a concern? And the other thing, years ago, I used to work at the American River, getting it ready, the pump station there ready. And the county, I believe the county or NID would do a high resolution video of that entire pipe. It seems to me that if both of these are off, that there should be a high resolution video available to you guys that they should have already have done when this was turned off. So I would suggest that it exists, and if it doesn't, they should have already done a high resolution video of the inside of this pipe for the full length of the pipe.
I know that there was some drone work done on the tunnel. I've never seen the video, so we can request those.
Yeah, I don't mean a drone inside the actual water, the water. Once it's been dewatered, you should be able to do it. They should be able or have done a high resolution video of the dewatered pipe.
I'm sure they probably have. We just haven't seen it.
We have utilized LiDAR to inform the design.
Well, LiDAR, it doesn't, he's talking about inside the pipe. LiDAR doesn't.
Yeah, it
Does it?
LiDAR will map the whole.
It informs the design. So we've used remotely operated vehicles in the tunnel, and again, use light detecting radar to inform the design.
That's how we recreate, like.
It seems like a nice little
manufacturing
camera,
orders.
like the sewer guys do. You know, they put a camera down your
This is
sewer
a
line.
remote operated video.
The LiDAR is much more accurate. You can tell the,
Yeah, one is visually seeing and one provides design data for
Oh,
the
okay,
actual
great.
repair. In regards to your other question about whether the horn can transfer that much water, that was the information I just requested a little bit ago. We've been continuously requesting. Their estimation of the amount of water that can flow through the single horn is based off of some engineering analysis that was completed before this problem ever started. And we have not seen that data, so that's why we've been requesting it.
Yeah, I would just be concerned if normal has been 300 and now we're going to put 400 through it.
No, it has not been.
And
that is a possible weak spot. They're usually only putting, 750 through both horns? The drum, 780. So it is exceeding what it typically experiences, and that's why we've requested that information.
I really do appreciate you guys' time, and it is a joy to watch you guys do it.
Brandon, I did see the PG&E's YouTube video production, and not a surprise, it was impressive in showing the inside of the tunnel and the operating environment. What is disappointing to me is, and at the time it was produced, maybe there was a rosier picture about when it was going to come back online. But it seems to me that PG&E needs to take public ownership for this debacle, okay? And that video would give you a sense that it was happy, happy times. And we are now clearly in really unhappy times. And we need PG&E, with their communication effort, to take ownership publicly for where we stand today and not leave it totally on NID's shoulders to try and help the public understand that this occurrence is taking place beyond our control, and the responsibility lies with PG&E, and PG&E needs to say so. So I don't want to see another happy, happy video. I want to see some truth and some facts and ownership.
Yep.
Anybody, any more public comment? Anybody wants to add anything? So I need some clarification. We've been talking about Powerhouse 1. That was used last year after Powerhouse 2 went down. Powerhouse 2 is kind of a normal way of getting our water.
Yes, into the South Yuba pipe. The wicket gates on Powerhouse 2 are broken, so it,
But I thought, when we first had the meetings, Powerhouse 2 was gonna be operational as long as the pipe was operational.
South, Powerhouse 2 wicket gates are repaired. What's holding it up now is the repair of South Yuba pipe.
Yes.
So in the event the South Yuba pipe's in a fall, they would be able to move water through there.
Correct. So as of August 24th, when the pipe is supposed to be finished, we will be getting full deliveries through that Powerhouse 2, so that we won't have to.
Is that true?
Well, that's what I'm asking,
Yes.
because that's what I'm hearing. So we won't have to go back to Powerhouse 1 and wait for you guys to repair the second horn. You'll be able to get us water through Powerhouse 2.
No.
No.
They will only be able to get, you know, the 87 CFS into the top of the South Yuba pipes through Powerhouse 2.
Yeah, but that's somewhat normal.
That's normal for Scotts Flat. That's not going to, will still only be at 400 coming down into Rollins.
Right.
When the repair, yeah, so we are looking at around, with losses, we're calculating around 350 coming out of the discharge out of Horn 1. We're gonna take 50 of that and push it over to the South Yuba Canal. So 300 will be going into Rollins, 50 in the Scotts. We are working with an alternative solution for them to spill some additional water through a blow-off into the South Yuba pipes before, down lower below where it's not repaired, before the August 24th date, but that's not settled yet.
Second feet. So, but as of August 24th, what I'm hearing is that Powerhouse 2 wickets will be repaired, and the pipe, so we can get 87 second feet. The problem will be into Nevada County or Scotts Flat. The problem will be the Bear River and Rollins.
Yeah, but yes, the problem will still be Bear River and Rollins. The benefit to Rollins is that we'll no longer having to be pushing that 50 CFS over. We'll push everything down to Rollins.
I wonder about, you know, we've done this in the past, done community meetings or a town hall meeting or whatever, because, you know, to my last comments about PG&E participating in first of all, taking accountability, but also helping get this messaging out. I'm asking the world and our fellow board members if we think it would be beneficial to hold a community meeting with PG&E present, folks present, and so that we can tell everybody at one, you know, this is what's going on. And this is how dire it is or how dire it's not. You know, there's all this misinformation out there.
Well, I think one of the challenges is that unless you set up a series of community meetings, the information's changing constantly. I mean, how many times have I notified the board one thing in the morning and it changes by the afternoon? You know, we're willing to do whatever the board desires. And we've also spoken at several community groups, any community group that requests that we can speak about the PG&E issue, we do that. And we have spoken to a ton of different groups. So we're happy to move forward in any way. But I highly recommend we have a special meeting next week.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll start there, and then if we think we still need a community meeting, we could do that. You know, it's really interesting, my experience of those community groups, because I speak to a lot of them too, they're engaged folks in local government. And then there's this plethora of people who are not engaged, and they don't know what's going on. And it's like Jody said, you know, she hears every day, this is NID's fault. And it's like, no, it actually isn't. You know, it just seemed like if we had it would be one way to get a stronger hit of informational campaign and have PG&E there saying,
let me work with Brandon and his team and see if we can't coordinate some additional outreach.
I just wanted to comment on your comments. Appreciate all the discussion. Some of it I really said myself. So I know we're all frustrated. I'm sorry, Brandon. I know you just the message of if you have a community meeting, have the right people.
that's right.
I mean, this is really frustrating to sit here and have Brandon not have the answers and then not come back and have the answers.
Right.
That's my
Would you recommend having T-shirts that PG&E did it, NID?
PG&E did it.
I would like to go one step farther with Barbara just suggested, and I've already suggested to the board, and thank you, some of you guys have heard, that the next public community meeting workshop, probably I would like to see it done at Maydew with the Board of Supervisors. I think that this is something they should be instigating as well, some sort of a public workshop that can come to at that level. I mean, there's county issues that haven't been addressed yet with the emergency, and I think that would be the next level for getting this community involvement. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Mr. Pasner has his hand raised.
Pasner.
Hey, Mike, you're up. Hey, Mike, are you muted?
There he is.
He's unmuted now.
Mr. Pasner, you can speak if you'd like to. It seems like Jody has her hand up. We'll go to Jody real quick.
Sorry, yes, I just wanted Rich to know I do have a t-shirt press and a hat press and an engraver, and apparently I need to find other sources of income. So I'm here if you need me.
All right. Yeah. Hey, Mike, are you, okay, ready?
Yeah.
Mike,
Mike Pesner?
yeah, we're not hearing you, Mike. You're unmuted, but we are still not hearing you.
Still not hearing anything, Mike.
Mike, Mr. Pasner, if you'd like, please email me your comments and I can get those to the board.
Okay. So we need to move on. Any more public comment? Any director's comments? Right. All right. So, Brandon, thank you.
Thank you all.
And appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks.
I'm going to carry all that back and accordingly.
We will get a list of the questions and concerns, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So now we're going to general orders and canal rotations due to emergency water shortage. Chip, I know that you worked on this, and then they changed the date on you.
Yeah, it seems like old news. Things are changing so fast. But good morning, everybody. I'm Chip Close, Director of Water Operations. And as we have just witnessed, the PG&E outage has pushed. However, the staff report and the emergency resolution for implementing mandatory canal rotation still is prudent and in fact has now increased. I think what I'd like to do, if y'all will allow, I'd like to give you a little bit of an overview to kind of show you why we're at the capacity constraints we're at and explain a little bit more of that. I've been getting a lot of questions of, well, the reservoir still has water, why do we have to do a mandatory canal rotation? So if you'll give me a few minutes, I'll explain a little bit of that to you. And Chris, if we can get a map up there, that would be greatly appreciated. So what I've provided here is a map of the Deer Creek watershed and system. And it looks like a lot of lines, but you can see Scotts Flat Reservoir there. You see the red lines. Those red lines depict all the canals that are fed from the Cascade Canal system. All the green lines are the canals that are fed from the DS Canal. The reason that is important is you'll notice on the upper end above Scotts Flat Reservoir where the Cascade Canal gets its water, it doesn't quite go far enough, but what it's depicting there is that the Cascade Canal itself is fed directly from the South Yuba Canal and or Deer Creek. That's very important. The DS Canal, which is shown below Scotts Flat in green, is fed directly from Scotts Flat Reservoir. So we have that massive water body there, not massive, but 48,000 acre feet of water to feed those customers down below. Without the South Yuba Canal, we cannot get water into the Cascade Canal. We have been living on natural runoff since this whole event started in Deer Creek. The natural snow melt, whatever springs were available, has been flowing down into Deer Creek. We've been diverting those into our Cascade Canal, and our customer base has been surviving on that. Very fortunate there. However, we're now running into the heat of summer. We're running out of that natural supply, and we have now fired up all backup emergency pumps, and the upper end of the Cascade Canal is no longer being supplied. It's no longer functional. So what we are doing now is we are taking water from that green line right below Scotts Flat Reservoir and pumping all of that water up into the Cascade system to supply all those little red fingers you see on the map. The DS Canal, the green canal there, was never designed to support the entirety of the Nevada County canal system. So we are now maxing out that canal. That canal is now feeding all the Nevada County canals, all the Nevada County treatment plants, and pumping water up into the Cascade system. So we anticipate running out of that capacity in the next few weeks, and that is why the canal rotation emergency was requested. What this is going to do, what our attempt to do from an operational perspective is cut back some of that load on the DS Canal that's not available, and rotate canals as far as cutbacks go equally. So we're trying not to cut back on one set of individuals over and over again. So what we've proposed is canal rotations. Right now, we think we need about 5 CFS of extra capacity. So we have initially picked a set of canals that match that amount. We also selected canals that, at this point in time, don't have any in-home use. That was important to us. So that's why you see the 4 rotations that we proposed originally in the staff report. Having said that, though, the changes that we have now witnessed from PG&E mean that we are going to have to do more rotations. And we are now brainstorming on which canals we are going to rotate after this first round of rotations. We do believe it's going to move on into the Chicago Park area, as well as to the Rattlesnake area. So we are still working on that list. But one of the things we are going to endeavor to do is do a direct mailing to every one of these customers that is affected by this, notify them of the plan, and get them educated on what we're up against. Now, yeah.
So you're able to get water into Cement Hill?
Yes.
From the DS to the Cascade, and it will flow there?
So water's getting over towards Snow Mountain side of the world through our emergency pump facility. We are pumping water over.
Chip, how many CFS and how much is that costing per day?
So the pumps can do somewhere in the well, there's 3 different pump stations we're operating.
Oh, okay.
I should have specified that, but
One.
Well, one of the bigger ones that we have all discussed many times in the past when we've had South Yuba Canal failures is the siphon lane pump station. And it is 3 500 horsepower diesel pumps. They only do about 15 CFS, so they take DS water and push it back up into the Cascade about 15 CFS worth. Right now, we're running 1 pump at 5 CFS, and it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $2,000 a day to pay for the diesel cost.
Because we still have some residual runoff water in Cascade.
We do. We are utilizing the maximum we can. I will say that as of a few days ago, even with the pumps running, the Cascade pipe up top is starting to drain. So we're going to have to start cycling, running a pump for a while, shutting it off, letting the pipe fill, and continue that operation.
So is there a time frame where you would turn on the second and third pumps?
Yes, if we run out of, completely run out of all natural supplies, there's a very good chance we'll be running the second pump as well, just to keep up with demand.
If you had to guess, when is that?
I would guess we're probably a couple weeks away from that. So the problem remains, though, that the availability of water in the DS Canal will limit how much we can pump. So in other words, if we have to run a second pump, but the DS Canal is already at capacity, we have to shed capacity somewhere else to allow that second pump to kick on. That is how we tie into rotating outages. Those rotating canal outages will free up some of that capacity to run that emergency pump and deliver that extra water into the other reaches.
So what's the capacity of the DS Canal?
Oh, it's around 90 CFS, down, about halfway down the system.
We're trying to avoid domestic, people who are using canal water for domestic use.
So initially, our goal was to only affect our irrigation water customers who don't use this in the house. But given the delay in the schedule and the severity, we are going to potentially start these rotations in folks that use it in-home as well. We are also contemplating kicking in the drought contingency plan for treated water customers as well and ask for mandatory conservation at that level too. I apologize, I don't have all of that in front of me today because we didn't find out about this until late yesterday.
You didn't stay up all night working this out?
I stayed up all night, but that was just worry.
So, yeah, one of the things, and that's why I'm recommending the special meeting next week. Right now, and Chip he'll go through the numbers, but if the July 30th holds, which how much confidence we all have in that, Rollins customers wouldn't necessarily be impacted, but we are coming back with a proposal for additional rotations coming off of Deer Creek plus treated water conservation measures.
Yeah, so Chris, if you can go ahead and put the Scotts Flat forecast up there, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I have another question for that. So can we, under this emergency and resolution or whatever, is there some way we can get tanks to these people who are using the ditch water so that they can store and have a week or 2 weeks worth of supply? Or is that going to be more cost effective than running water through that canal?
Yeah, it's a great suggestion. We do have a rebate program where we have been offering some kickback on some of those tank purchases. I do fear that the timing available to get those deployed and purchased and tied in probably not going to meet this window of need. But that's why we propose this as being only 3-day outages. We have always encouraged folks that have in-home use to have some alternate storage, whether it be a pond, which is great, or some storage tanks to help them get through a 3-day window. In fact, our raw water application says you may be without water for 2 weeks, so we ask people to have enough storage for that, but we know that's not always doable.
So that's something we could ask with PG&E to start buying a bunch of tanks and contractors could put them in. I mean, this is, yeah, I know we don't have the time to make this happen, but if we don't do it, we'll never have the time.
I have a question. So if the fix doesn't happen until October 15th, would you be suggesting doing 3-day rotations today? Or would you be suggesting much more drastic district-wide?
If it was out through October.
We just knew they're not going to have anything until October 15th.
Yeah, we would probably do more drastic measures. But I can walk you through the projections here. That's why we have the...
What I'm getting at is it's been kind of a slow drip.
Yes.
And what I don't want is, we have no confidence in these schedules, right? Nobody should at this point. We're just being foolish. Is making a worse case at the end of the season because we're not ready to rip the Band-Aid off. I would rather at this point, we start at least having an option to rip the Band-Aid off, assuming we're not getting those flows.
Yeah, I hear the concern, and I tend to, I can totally sympathize with that and agree with that. The other side of that argument is if they held to these dates and we had done pretty draconian type cutbacks, it may have been for naught. That's not the case right now, but
now, I think that there's a good argument that we shouldn't have done that because we were spilling.
Right.
Now the spilling's done.
Yeah.
We're now going to start pulling from the reservoir. So it's a different argument than it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I'll walk you through these reservoirs and maybe we can continue that discussion. But essentially, I believe you guys saw this slide last week, and it is a forecast for Scotts Flat Reservoir, what you can see is that it basically bottoms out around September in this particular scenario at 25,000 acre feet. This was before the new news that we got from PG&E. The change in that delta with the extended outage pushes Scotts Flat down a bit lower to right around 21,000 acre feet. So a difference of about, and I'm being very conservative here, a difference of about 4,000 acre feet. So
That's if they make it in July 30th.
that is actually a little bit before that July 30th date, and I'm getting a little bit in the weeds, but PG&E has indicated they're attempting to get us some flows earlier in the South Yuba Canal.
April.
Yeah, I know, I hear you. So that's assuming they get us some flows a little bit earlier. We'll drop down to around that 21,000 acre feet, still above where we were during the drought stages in 2015. So that's where we're at with Scotts Flat. So there's still water there, still available. We're having a hard time getting it to the customers, hence the canal rotations. The next slide.
Hey, Chip?
Yeah.
What you guys are doing is amazing, you know, providing this information. Scotts Flat has about 5,000 acre feet of sedimentation. We talked about this dead pool. Where is that?
I believe that was also 5,000 acre feet. That's, we don't go below that.
Right, okay.
Chip,
Gotcha.
where are we at today? Are we tracking that green line?
That's a great question. I can pull that up for you here in a second. I don't know, I didn't check this morning, I should have. I'll get you that number.
I think it's higher, because
I think it may be
pretty high.
Probably a little better.
Yeah.
We had that last storm that topped a lot of those reservoirs off.
It actually looked really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide is Rollins. Rollins is a little bit funny. We have the reservation, or the forecast for you. You can see we've added the average lines to these. It was requested at the last meeting. That's the green line at the top. And Rollins, by its nature, stays full most of the summer and drops at the end of the season. The new forecast for Rollins is a little bit more detrimental. So we bottomed out, we forecasted at the end of August, right around, 38,000 acre feet or so. We're now projecting that'll be around 30,000 acre feet. That still looks good on paper, right? But keep in mind, we have 13,000 acre feet of sedimentation that has filled in that reservoir that is not accessible. So we're really getting down to the nitty-gritty at Rollins, and any push on that July 30th date will result in mandatory canal rotations on the Placer County side. That's what we foresee. So part of the reason it's not worse on Rollins Reservoir is basically PG&E runs out of capacity in Rollins. There's a portion of water reserved for them in Rollins. They run out. And so PCWA will have to go to an alternate supply of some sort, and the balance of the remaining water there is for NID and our customer base. So with that in mind, we came to this board because our emergency resolution at the very beginning of this whole thing, the board requested that we come back when we escalated these to mandatory efforts. In our opinion, rotating canal outages is a mandatory item. We were fortunate enough that we saw this coming, so we came to the board before we implemented it, but we wanted to inform you of what's going on and also let you know that this will expand beyond just these 4 rotations we initially proposed. It will be at least 2 to 3 more rotations on the Deer Creek side and may expand into rotations on the Placer County side towards the end of July. We are also anticipating coming back to this board with mandatory treated water conservation, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of stage 2 conservation for our treated water customers, which is, restricting outdoor watering and based on your addresses and just some overall messaging to our customer base that gets stuffed in the buildings that this is serious. We need your cutback.
So raw water sales to out of district people, raw water sales to in district.
So
Lincoln's in district, Nevada City's out of district.
Yeah,
that back.
we will be reaching out to the cities, Grass Valley and Nevada City, and asking for at least the conservation measures that we do, if not better.
So, yeah, Nevada City last time had 30% signs already made up.
But they haven't started using any, Nevada City, have they started using water yet?
Probably not, they gotta be close though. Grass Valley is always on our water, but Nevada City does have some local water rights they use.
And so that would, okay, so if we go 2, it's spelled out. Okay. And it really doesn't, it moves the needle, and yet it doesn't move the needle. But in this type of situation, everybody needs to share in the realization that there's not enough water.
Yeah, it's a careful balance between sharing the conservation and some of the pain and protecting revenue.
Yeah.
So one thing I can share is that I think some of our treated water customers got the messaging on the first round and have done a pretty good job of cutting back, actually. And it's probably time for a refresher on that, and switching to mandatory will probably help refresh the messaging that you need to continue cutting back. But essentially in May, there was 8% reduction in water use, and then year to date, we're at about 10%.
8% over what? Over last year's May?
2013?
Correct. So May 2024.
Cooler and it rained.
Correct.
So I'm not sure that you can make that assertion. This should be like a 10-year average.
So the
12-year average.
It is a 12-year average. The blue.
You're saying 8% over the 12-year average, not.
I have both, Director Calder. So May, the first line in red here at the top left, May 2024 is 8% less than the 12-year average. And then year to date is 10% less than the 12-year average.
Yeah, I wouldn't attribute this to your mailer. I'd attribute it to the environment.
Well, I mean, that definitely plays a role.
We got lucky, right? It rained.
It plays a role.
It rained every Saturday for 2 months. I know because I tried to mow.
Well, actually, May was below average in precipitation. We did have one good storm in
My
May.
coyness is the lack of a formal request.
The point is, if we go into mandatory stage 2 drought restrictions, that message will go back out. We will encourage additional savings and hopefully see some benefits there. Volume-wise, it's not huge, but the messaging is on par with what we're doing with our irrigation water customers, and that's our goal.
If I may, Board.
I take exception for that. I don't get my water back today if I want it. I gave it to you back. Right? No treated water person that cut back last week is going to not be able to get that water today. I don't get my water back till next year. So to say that the raw water customers.
I'm not tracking. So if you
I gave you a 20% reduction.
Voluntarily.
Voluntarily.
Right? Okay, now I'm with you.
Tomorrow I can't get my 20% back. Right. Next year I can. Yeah. And so we've taken a bigger hardship than the treated water customers. It's not the same thing.
Well, it's the same thing in the sense that.
It's not the same thing.
We're moving
I can't get my water back tomorrow if I want it.
Right.
The treated water customer that didn't turn on the tap today can turn it on tomorrow without calling.
Understood.
So let's just at least say that the ag community, even though it's 3,000 acre feet?
It's 4,000 acres.
4,000 acre feet today. Yeah. Did something, they gave you water for the whole season. And let's not shortchange what that means to them.
If I may, Board, a couple comments. Just as a reminder, we have declared emergency. You did that on March 27th, 2024, by resolution number 2024-10. Think of this resolution as kind of step 2. It's a declaration of further emergency, basically. So you're not superseding or amending that prior resolution. You're just building upon it. And as Chip mentioned, staff and myself drafted this resolution. At that time, we were told that the deadline had slipped from the June 18th to June 30th. Since this has been published, it's slipped to July 11th and now July 30th. So this is obviously a dynamic situation. And I know Director Calder and others have spoke to this in the past, but Resolve Paragraph 5 points back to your earlier resolution 2024-10 and specifically the delegated authority to your general manager to, respond as necessary to what is a dynamic situation here. So it sounds like we're going to have a special meeting potentially next week where we will likely have another resolution before you. But I did want to point out that, if there is something where we cannot call a special meeting, that delegated authority does still exist. We're not superseding that, at least not proposing superseding that in this resolution.
And just for clarity, I think we're aligned. Jennifer could take action as long as she gives us notification. That's what we ended up agreeing to.
That's correct. In resolution, just to expand on that, Director, resolution 2024-10 contained a resolved paragraph that has that delegated authority, but to the extent it results in any kind of mandatory cutback, there's a notification requirement. Because we had an opportunity to present that authority did not have to be exercised by Jennifer in this particular case, so we brought it before the board. And next week, sounds like we're going to try to do the same thing. But because this is such a dynamic situation, I felt it was important not to, by this resolution, strip that delegated authority away. So it still exists. And the same guardrail, so to speak, where there's notification to the board and ratification of that action, that still exists.
Justin, on page 5 of this resolution, under the second whereas, you've got the date. Are we going to modify this to that July 30th date?
No, we'll bring something back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why I'm recommending a follow-up meeting for two purposes. One, I want PG&E to be able to respond to our requests, but two, to provide more information to the public. So it's nice just to be able to bring the items back forward again. And so we'll have a brand new one.
Because there probably will be a different date.
It could be a different date by 12 today.
Yeah, that's
Okay. So with that, staff is requesting the adoption of Resolution 2024-23, establishing emergency canal outage rotations throughout the duration of PG&E's unplanned Spalding 1 and South Yuba Canal outages.
This impact the county. We had talked about that the county was sort of waiting in the wings for some direction from us. And it seems like this is a good time to ask them. I see Craig Griesbach has been on the line there. Is this the time that we go back to the board supervisors and say, okay, time to
kick in gear,
right?
Well, so we've been in touch with OES this whole time. Actually,
I know you guys have.
Right. They have a series of protocols in order to define their proclamation of an emergency. It has all sorts of nuances, layers, actions that they have to go through and analyses, some of which is financial consideration and economic loss to the public. There are thresholds that FEMA and Cal OES essentially play. That's really about a $60 million loss economically for a federal regulation or for a federal declaration, and around 10% of that, or $6 million loss for the community-wide declaration.
Losses, PG&E incurred expenses, is that considered a public loss?
I believe it may be. I don't have all the answers, and we'd have to certainly get in touch with OES and talk to them in order to get more. The limited information that I have from OES is just that we keep talking to them. They understand our declarations and they understand our emergencies. I just spoke with Paul at OES this morning, talked to him about this. There are a way that if we can get to sort of that financial moment, our financial calculations, we have our own financial calculations that don't quite match that total dollar amount economically, but collectively for our community and our customers, we may be able to get to that number and higher. There is a possibility of some disaster-specific surveys that OES has done in the past that we may want to utilize to get to all the data and information logistics that they would need in order to bring to the board. So we're certainly talking with them, and we'll be talking with them more after this, after today, about maybe moving forward with a disaster-specific survey. They still have to, I'm not going to speak for OES, but they are aware of the situation. They are aware of our now extended outages and whatever happens after today at noon, if something should change. I mean, there's going to be ongoing financial hardship, not only for NID, based on $2,000 a day, pumping costs, loss of revenue for water sales, loss of revenue for hydro, loss of revenue for recreation, other calculations. But they kind of lay all that out from what I understand and define an economic loss for the community and then move forward with the Board of Supervisors from there. So I don't know when that dollar calculation will happen. We haven't experienced, in terms of NID, those are our projections kind of through the end of the season. So we haven't really totally experienced all those losses to date, at least, recreation just started. We're projecting losses throughout the year, but we don't know exactly what it is. However, we could formulate some survey with all of our customers, all of our agriculture customers, try to figure out, who had to move cattle from their ranch in Placer County or Nevada County up to Oregon, and what was the cost there, right? So there are ways that we can move forward with this. I don't know if we have all the data that OES would need right now to make a emergency declaration, but we can start exploring.
My guess is that the actual losses won't really become verifiable until after they occur, which then doesn't help anybody in this interim time, right?
That's my understanding. Yep.
I also want to say that if you're a farmer, veggies or whatever, and you lose your crop this year, you've also lost market share.
Mm-hmm.
And may not be able to get back into the market next year. So these are losses that keep coming, and hopefully that survey could maybe account for some of that. It's going to be hard to do.
Yeah.
Do you know if there's a nuance, like is it, let's say the number 60 million that you need to get to, is it per county or per event? Or, like, are we gonna have to do 60 million per?
It's an event, I believe.
So go across county lines?
Yes.
So Josh, the ag commissioners could help pull that data. They send out polls.
Since this is a district-wide concern, this is a multi-jurisdictional, multi-county event, right? Yes, I would imagine that both OES and ag commissioners are talking, and we can gather all sorts of financial data. Again, the specifics of what is needed, I really don't have that, but OES is very aware of the situation and happy to help.
Our ag commissioner is here, but thank you, Chris, for coming. Any more public comment? Directors, any comments? Final words?
Let's just pick a day for next week.
I would just
reach out about that.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I would just like to request that we do, in preparation for an emergency meeting or a future conversation, that we do have an analysis of the issue of taking action, not taking action now on the entire system. Because it does concern me that PG&E, we have no confidence at this point in their ability to execute. So at a certain point, we will pass the point where it's too late to take the action we should have taken earlier. And I think we just have to understand, if we act now on the whole system, this is what happens. If we wait, let's say until July 20th to take action, I'd like to see some different scenarios so that we are doing our due diligence with the risk assessment. Because there is a point where if we don't take action, then we are going to screw everybody.
Yeah.
But taking it prematurely is maybe not warranted, so.
If we get to a point where there's law of diminishing returns.
Yeah, And I would like to see, I would like to have documentation in writing in advance, because, for me, and I'm sure other people, it's helpful to be able to prepare for a conversation versus hearing everything on the fly. And I know you guys are working your tails off, so it's not a criticism at all.
Yeah, one of the challenges is the numbers change every day, so,
Right.
and PG seems to change every day. So that's why we're constantly re-crunching.
Not easy.
No.
Hi, Debbie.
Hello, Debbie Tutunchi, Nevada County Farm Bureau. I'm looking at the resolution and I just have a quick question for clarification. I see the rotations 1, 2, 3, and 4, knowing this was prepared yesterday. Am I correct in assuming if the delay continues, then these rotations would continue in this order as needed? Is that the plan?
So great question. Initially, we hoped that these 4 rotations would get us through the entirety of the emergency. Obviously, that's not the case anymore. So what we are exploring is 2, maybe 3 other rotations of totally different canals before coming back to this one. So our hope is that these folks get a 3-day outage and then don't see another one for maybe another 3 or 4 weeks. That's our goal.
Thank you. I'd be happy to relay that information because I think a lot of people will see this and assume that it will be repetitive just for them.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
We'll clarify that in the next update. Thank you for that.
So I have a couple comments before. So my biggest concern with resolution, which is probably not a surprise, is that there's no stage 2 treated water conservation requirement in there. I think it's absolutely required, is that we all are gonna share in this. I don't like working on old data, and, you know, whether or not PG&E posted the actual data last night or this morning, we knew this was coming since, you know, Thursday. We knew something was coming. So.
No.
I don't think so.
Okay, on Friday, I got an email saying something was coming.
You did, and then they came back and they told us July 11th. And then I sent an email back to the board yesterday saying they had confirmed July 11th. And then yesterday
Agreed.
afternoon, they changed it.
The date slipped after you prepared the rotation. Twice.
This was prepared by Chip and I, thinking that the date had slipped from the June 18th to June 30th. After this was prepared, it slipped to the 11th.
And I'm saying that first slip before the going to July happened somewhere on Friday, Saturday.
I don't recall. It's changing so
It's changing so
frequently.
rapidly.
We're gonna learn what it was on Monday. Regardless, the data was old before we ever got here today, and I don't like to vote on old data.
Yeah, Trevor, June 30th on Friday, or Thursday. Monday, it was July 11th.
Yeah.
And on Tuesday, it was July 30th. So.
Tuesday night.
Yeah, Tuesday night. So we like to have fresh data, but these guys can only do what you can do. And so we're gonna vote on this to get this through until the end of June.
It's not a criticism of the team. I'm stating the facts as I learned them.
Yeah, understood.
Is I don't like to vote on old data when we know we have new data,
Well, that's
especially when it seems like we're all in favor in having another meeting very quickly. So those are my comments.
And we'll have fresh data. That all factored in. Go ahead.
So I want to sort of dovetail on what Trevor's been thinking, looking at this, and I asked the question, I heard Jennifer say protecting revenue versus declaring an outright drought, for lack of a better term. And I'm a little bit, because it looks like it hits some people but not other people. And I don't know how they're gonna take it, that part.
One of the things, Chip and I have had some discussions, and we'll come back at this next special meeting, is that there is a benefit in protecting revenue as much as possible. We are taking a huge revenue hit right now, which then relates to a rate increase for everybody. That's one of the reasons why with this initial set of outages that we were very selective in trying to minimize as much as possible. For example, nobody off the Rollins leg is getting rotated because it's not needed. Treated water at that time, we were not recommending any type of mandatory reduction for the purpose of protecting revenue because those rotating canal outages aren't related to a water shortage, it's related to a canal capacity issue. But moving forward, we're gonna have to start talking about this and, you know, whether or not credits should be given to people who are rotated. That's something that we'll bring that conversation back to the board. Because I do understand that that would likely be the expectation, and especially when you take into consideration raw water and treated water. Treated water, they will still pay the same fixed fee, but as they reduce water use, their volumetric portion of their bill does get reduced. So, you know, we have to try to balance all these things at the same time.
So for every, say, $400,000 in reduced revenue, that's a 1% increase in water rates.
And that's why we've been trying to carefully balance managing this situation with the data that we have while protecting revenue as much as possible, because it will directly relate to a rate increase.
And in Prop 218, we can't differentiate between different classes unless we have a nexus.
Yes, you would have to have a specific legal nexus between what you're doing.
So let me parrot back what I thought I heard you say portionally. A component of the decision to not, for this resolution in front of us, to not have a required reduction for treated water was revenue protection.
Yeah, and also treated water just doesn't use that much water. So the reduction in revenue versus the water savings you get don't equal.
Do you understand what that message says to the ag community? Is I get more bang for the buck if I harm you. So I'm going to harm you more going forward.
No, I think it's the exact opposite. So, for example, if we take the theory that everybody shares in the pain, then we would do canal rotations across the entire system. Right now, the canal rotations that are proposed in the resolution that we've put forth today, which we know is outdated, it is simply because of canal capacity issues, as opposed to applying them to all the raw water users.
The comment you just made, which you made before, and specifically to the revenue protection on treated water versus the amount of water that ag users consume per dollar, it's cheaper water. When you make that comment, you're stating that your preferential is to always harm ag because you save more water faster.
Absolutely not. I never said that.
That's how I hear it.
I think maybe there's a misunderstanding of how the water fund works. So both treated water and raw water revenue goes into the same fund. Any additional expenditures and or reduction in revenue impacts that whole fund. I have no preference versus treated versus raw water. Treated water does bring in more revenue and they use less water.
Yes.
That doesn't mean we are picking on raw water. What we're trying to do is eliminate impacting everybody with an overall revenue reduction. And that's the reason why if we wanted to impact raw water, we would have applied canal outages to everybody in raw water, and I certainly don't think that's warranted. That would be unfair, but that's not what we've suggested doing at all.
Well, and I hear that we are going to have a campaign to encourage conservation on the treated water side. So it's not, but we simply don't have the ability to say, okay, everybody treated water, you cannot turn on your spigot for 3 days. You know, we're going to electrocute you or whatever when you touch the handle. I mean, we don't have the ability to do that. So I think that when you can't do it, you can encourage it. And that's the best we can do on the treated water side.
I don't agree with the statement.
Yeah,
Well, so you could put rules in place for treated water, but you know, there's been, I don't want the public, there is no preference amongst staff, treated water versus raw water at all.
I'm just going off of the statement you just made, that you said treated water, you were protecting that revenue as part of the decision. Now, I'm not disagreeing with that part of the argument. It's a valid argument. And they use very little water. So now it's easier to turn off the spigot to the raw water customers because they're using a lot of water, but the revenue associated with that is much smaller. I'm just saying that it's an optics thing. I'm not saying that as a company we're trying to pull water away from ag. I'm just saying that you might want to consider listen back to the statement you made and consider how that sounds to someone like me that gave up their water.
That was a voluntary reduction, and it also has resulted in a revenue hit. As I've said, all along, we have not wanted to go to mandatory cuts when they're not necessary, because it impacts people's livelihoods, impacts the economy,
And now we're here.
it impacts the community.
No.
We're not impacting all raw water users.
Next week.
But even at that point, we're still not recommending impacting all raw water users. We are making recommendations based off of canal capacity issues, not water shortage
That
issues.
was last week. I think that we're gonna have a different discussion, because I believe that you and I are aligned that at least an option that should be put in front of us on Monday or Tuesday, whenever we get together, should assume that we're not getting Spalding 1 back until the end of the season.
And we can bring the option back.
So as a farmer, I respect that the district is trying to protect revenue, because there will be water rates increases as revenues go down. And for farmers who want to have cheaper water, that's not the way we
No.
can do it. So right now, we're just dealing with the facts as we know it. Well, I don't want to get into something else, but we all can conserve water. And I know the water tenders the ditch guys are really doing a hell of a job out there.
So I have a question about that.
They're incredible right now. And when my neighbor noticed that there was a 1 inch differentiation in the canal, it was 1 inch too low, the guy was right on it, finding out where he could find it was supposed to be 1 more inch in there. So the users are really monitoring how much water is in there, and it's right on the market. It's marked. So we're conserving water on our canals so we can have go longer in our season. And you guys are doing a hell of a job with a very difficult situation. So, I keep it at it. And yeah, I'd like to see all the alternatives. What happens if we don't have water in September 1, or we don't have water in October 1? But it's kind of a hard thing to project. I mean, it's almost impossible to project. So we deal with the facts as we have them, and we'll try to keep it in real time and trust. No, we're not going to trust, but PG&E will have to give us as much information as they, can, as fast as they can, and we'll keep the pressure on that they give it to us quicker. So you're doing a heck of a job. Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I would like to make a recommendation, and I'll explain my recommendation, is to maybe table this resolution. I think along what Trevor might be saying is that it's on old information, or it's based on information that's not current. And my reasoning for suggesting tabling it until next week is this could be perceived as miscommunication to the public, or not. It could appear that you might be contributing to the fact that there's information available to you, and you're suggesting to the public this solution or this resolution. In reality, you already know that next week is going to be something different. And
but here's the deal, and Chip alluded to it. This is not based on PG&E. This is based on the capacity of the DS Canal, and up into the Cascade Canal. There's no more water coming through into the Cascade Canal. So it has nothing to do with PG&E. It has more to, hopefully it does, indirectly. Yeah. But it has more to do with our operation.
We didn't ask this question. If we approve this, when do you put it into effect?
Immediately. So the reason I'm at this board today is so I can get a mailing in the mail today to notify.
If you could snap your fingers, when would you start the rotation? Not the mailing and stuff. Like, do you need it yesterday, or you need it 2 weeks from today when you turn it?
Probably 2 weeks from now, but
It says June 20th in the resolution.
But I asked a different question.
So you'll notice in the resolution I put in there, we're gonna do everything in our power to push these out as far as we can. I think.
Actually, I'm not advocating for that. I'm advocating, if you could snap your fingers and you turn it on today and it helped everyone.
Would you do it? Yeah.
Would you do it?
The answer is yes.
Let's do the right thing, let's not do the expedient.
Which is why I think it's prudent and appropriate to push this through today so we can get this ball moving.
But you just said that It would be probably in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So if we voted on Monday to do it, something different that
Yes.
included this.
Yes, but our goal is to notify the customer as early as possible so they can prepare a backup plan
Okay,
for
that's
those
fair.
3 days. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And I'll add something that, I've had this conversation with some neighbors, and we've already kind of worked out a solution based on this.
Yeah, many of the customers in this first rotation are actually very accustomed to 4-day rotations. They already practice this. And that's why we picked this group first, is they're kind of used to this. But moving forward, as we expand this, it'll be new for a lot of other customers. And we get it's a hardship, and I wish there was a different answer. And we purposely picked these 3 days, hopefully, so that it's not, so that their crops and whatnot will survive the 3-day outage and then prosper after that. So we're cognizant of the damage this can do, and we're trying to minimize it the best we can.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yep. Any more public comment? Public comments closed. And, do we have a resolution? Motion.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt resolution 2024-23, authorizing rotating outages in irrigation water service for certain canals given ongoing emergency water shortage conditions.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 4,
No.
Division 1,
Yes.
Division 5.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay,
This item should be pretty quick.
so much fun. Workshop.
On a break.
Again, rules of engagement, anybody can get up anytime. So Yuba-Bear relicensing, the California CEQA. Hey,
We have a director who's asking for a break.
Can we have a short break?
Short break?
5 minutes? Okay, we'll hold off on the workshop, and then come back in 5 minutes. Trevor?
At Farm Bureau. Yeah, we're
Here we
back.
go, thanks.
We were at Farm Bureau. I was arguing.
We are started.
Bringing it back on.
Okay. This is a workshop item, and is the Yuba-Bear relicensing.
I'll handle this one. We also have a couple of consultants online if the board has any questions. This item should be fairly quick. It's just an informational item. So as the board is aware, NID has been going through the FERC relicensing process for
12 years.
15 years, ever, I heard an ever, 15 years at least.
Can you share who the consultants are? And I don't know.
Yes, it's our friends from HDR. Charles is on the line from HDR.
HDR is good enough. Thank you.
Okay. They help us with many of our FERC relicensing efforts as well as the environmental side of it. So as the board is aware, it's been going on for some time. We are now recommending that we initiate CEQA and file the notice of intent. So this is just an informational item related to the FERC relicensing. There was a 401 certification that was issued by the State Water Resources Control Board. The state board took action about a month ago to rescind that license. And so we thought this was a good opportunity to now go into CEQA for the project itself. Oh, that will answer any questions. It's a pretty routine item. We'll be doing the notice of intent, which kicks off the whole process. It gets filed publicly. Public can provide any comments on the scoping documentation, and then those comments will then move forward into the development of the actual environmental document. The document will be tiered off of the EIS that was done by FERC themselves, because that's the federal environmental process. And so with that, we can answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, could you go through the timeline again? I'm still farmer confused about the 401. You said it was
rescinded.
Rescinded.
Correct.
About a month ago. Right?
About a month ago. So,
No, they rescinded the requirement to have it?
No, they rescinded the license. So some time ago, before I was ever here, the State Water Board, they had issued a 401 certification with their pending application. And since they did it that way, the NID nor the public were afforded any type of public process to provide comments or input on the 401 certification. The 401 certification has always been a point of contention, primarily because there is a reopener clause in there that allows the executive director of the state board to modify the license at any time as they see fit. That reopener, without due process through the public, which should be afforded to anybody, would be problematic because we would never have any regulatory certainty, nor would we be able to provide any input if they were to change the regulations for any reason. So because of that, there was a series of different litigations I'm not going to speak about right now. And then because of some recent case law, as well as the fact they didn't follow a public process, they rescinded that license. And so we are now going to be filing the notice of intent and kicking off the CEQA aspects. Am I missing anything, Dustin?
So I'm still confused. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still confused. I have been since being on here. That it's been rescinded. That means they don't send one to FERC and they're not.
It's no longer a valid regulatory certification.
So Director Beerwagen, I think you're getting to the underlying issue, which is still a subject of litigation.
Okay.
The underlying issue is whether the state board waived its ability to issue a certification altogether. What the state board did in rescinding their certification is not conceding the point that a certification could be issued somewhere down the road. But again, that depends on the outcome of pending litigation.
But we're no longer bound to this opener part. They did that, correct?
Currently,
yes.
And FERC is going to we'll go ahead without this 401C?
No.
No.
FERC has requested, but there's also additional litigation going on. FERC has requested that NID initiate the process.
Okay.
And one of the big portions of initiating the process is
CEQA. Okay.
So we're operating under the previous license today?
We have been for 12 years.
And what's the runway to get something done?
We're
talking this is years.
Yeah, this has been years, and this is.
I know it's been years, but
Would it be more years?
Is there an end date right now that we have to get CEQA done and the new 401?
I mean, we can take bets. That's what we can do.
Okay. It's like PG&E.
Yeah. And so, PG is notorious, a little bit notorious for it's very difficult to estimate when their process will ever be completed. There has been some entities who've been up to 20 years trying to get a new license.
Let me ask a different question. If this doesn't get completed at a certain time frame, are we do we need to shut down? Do we get to that point?
We are in a rolling license now since it expired. Ultimately, if we didn't move steps forward and do what FERC gives us under a time order, then you could eventually get there. But we're not there now.
There are projects ahead of NID in the queue, the FERC queue, that have no litigation, no issues. CEQA's done, NEPA's done, just waiting on license. And there's still incredible uncertainty as to when FERC would issue those new licenses. So, and those folks are ahead of you. They've been, in some cases, 20 years on that year continuation of the old license.
Oh, okay.
So there's a broader issue with FERC and their ability to spit out new licenses.
In the meantime, PCW got theirs, and Modesto or someone else got theirs.
Yeah, Chris, speak up into the.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, PCWA was issued their license 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. That's weird. All right.
I have a question about, in the staff report, it says budgetary impact, none at this time. Well, that isn't really true. I mean, we will have budgetary impacts as we go through this process. I mean, there may not be any today or next week or maybe even in this budget cycle, but there will be budgetary impacts. So I'm just wondering.
I think that was poorly written and more of a reflection of that we're not asking for a modification to the budget at this time. The work that
it was like, wait.
Yeah. There was
for free.
Right.
Thinking HDR.
Yeah, HDR Dustin have volunteered their time for
That's so nice.
the remaining of the FERC effort. No, they haven't.
Well, do we have an estimate? I mean, is this going to be $100,000, $250,000?
Probably over 250.
Probably over 250. That's what's.
It shouldn't be quite as expensive as just a straight CEQA document, because it can tear off a lot of the work that was already done at the federal level, and there'll certainly a cost to it.
I would just recommend going forward that we at least.
Absolutely. We for sure can do that.
And this is a workshop item, so when this comes back, we can clean that up. Yeah.
Okay.
Workshop item, I have a question for Aaron and Tracy. So in your last Yuba River update, you mentioned the 401s and that the rescission, and then that Merced Irrigation District refiled within a day because they saw the handwriting on the wall. Can you explain that? I mean, what does that mean? Why? What's the handwriting on the wall? Why did they do it?
Well, I can't tell you why they Tracy is, policy director, so, what happened was that the last FERC order went out and certain entities were, told that they had 60 days to file.
File what?
One of three things. I mean, Dustin can fill you in. I'm just gonna generally say, that entities have the ability, or FERC made an order that entities have 60 days to file, a request for a 401, proof of waiver, or the 401 itself, whatever it is. And I think, I will guess, that Merced saw, the road behind them and what's happened, and that it was time to file and to make the request.
Was so when Yuba Water Agency got their 401 in December of 2021, I thought they estimated it was going to cost them around $500 million, $500 million. Am I remember correctly, or because we didn't put an estimate on it, but Yuba Water Agency I thought did. That's a lot of money that we can't afford.
I don't know what Water Agency's number was off of that. I could get back to you guys if I know it. So I didn't do the analysis, but I know that the NID board did have a presentation maybe 2 or 3 years ago from Jim Lynch from HDR, and I know Chuck is on right now, to go over what the costs were. My vague recollection was there was a lot of recreation money.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, that's the FERC relicensing.
Yes.
Are you
I'm talking about specifically the 401 condition.
I don't think we're prepared to talk about that today.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have an estimate. I'm just saying.
We no longer have a certification.
We have no certainty.
So there's nothing to look at and estimate currently.
And I'm not asking for us to have the estimation. I'm just saying what Yuba Water Agency estimated.
Can I just say my understanding, and hopefully I'm doing the right thing, Chris Schutz isn't on, is he?
I don't see him.
Okay.
Okay.
I make it? Yeah, so hopefully, my understanding is the 401 basically matches what was negotiated in relicensing.
On the FERC relicensing. And the FERC relicense, I think, was $216 million. But like you said, a lot of campgrounds, a lot of roads, a lot of things that didn't apply to actual operation of hydro or water operations.
Well, okay, I'm not the person to speak to recreation, but my understanding is overall, the recreation that's connected is basically the mitigation in a way. We're building a project, and that, so we won't dive deep into that one, but that's not my area of expertise.
Just trying to save us some money.
Oh, I see. Oh, I understand, especially during these times. Okay, well, if I can help with anything else. Aaron, did I?
All right.
You have a hand raised on Zoom.
Okay. Who? Michael Ross? Yeah, Michael Ross, please.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thanks for this meeting. This is going to be a good meeting. Bringing this discussion to the community is very good. And I think the latest questions from the board should be answered by the professional engineer and responsible charge of the public utility. So whoever that is at this point in time, whoever is in responsible charge under California law for this public utility and the FERC, the hydroelectric utilities, should be able to answer your questions, Rich, with regard, Director Johansson, with regards to the status of any permitting and the nuances of any permitting for the public utility. It's their responsibility in accordance to California Business and Professional Code, and that is why the utility hires professional engineers. So it's not the legal counsel's advice, it's not the board's understanding, it's what the professional engineer actually knows and understands about the situation of the utility, its planning, its operations, and its management. And so that's the person who should be answering your questions. That's what that's what I'm weighing in on. So whoever that is at this point in time should be in front of this board answering those questions, not someone from an outside agency.
Thank you, Michael. Any other participants? Anybody else wants to chime in? Because this is informational only. No action is going to be taken, but your input is welcome. Seeing none, any last words from the directors?
What's the timeline for completion of the CEQA work?
There's several timelines that are part of it that are by statute, and then the studies have to be done, and the schedule will largely depend on how much they can rely on from the federal environmental document. And so I'll have to check in with the consultants, but I'm estimating at least 18 months.
So, no more comments. We're moving on to General Manager's report.
We have lately been speaking to several groups, which has been great. Just recently, I did have the opportunity to, and Mr. Johansson was there as well. We attended the Sierra College, Nevada County campus president's lunch, and it was excellent. And one of the things that came out of that lunch is Sierra College is doing several programs to improve the workforce and feed the workforce with a variety of different skills that the local communities need. And so we're going to start looking for opportunities to partner with them. We do find a lack of skilled labor within our communities or for hiring purposes, so that was really great. And then I know Greg also spoke at the Lake of the Pines. I had the opportunity to speak at the Contractors Association.
Sierra Streams Institute.
Sierra Streams Institute. We're missing someone too.
Fire Safe Council.
We did SERS, Fire Safe Council.
Yeah, SERS, that was the Lake of the Pines.
Yeah, so
Pineman.
The Pineman.
SERS was another one. Yes, the SERS was another one, that's correct.
Yeah.
So, we've been around.
Yeah, so it's been good. We've been trying to outreach to the community a lot, have different touch points with them.
Bing Crosby tour.
Is that a golf tournament?
No, it's a series of movies.
Bob Hope had a golf tournament.
They did a bunch of traveling tours.
Oh, yeah, that's Greg and I. We're on the.
We're doing right now.
Yeah.
And it continues.
Abbott and Costello.
Wait a second.
That's what it should be.
Okay.
Are those the Three Stooges?
All right, director's reports.
You're making me feel real old.
I don't watch a lot of TV. That's all I have.
All right, director's report. Chris?
I attended the Nevada County Farm Bureau Board meeting last Wednesday night. Good.
Good food, too.
Great food. Yeah.
My report is that I have been in the throes of moving, but the positive piece that relates to NID is I am now an NID customer for the very first time in my whole life. And I got to write a check to NID.
We like that.
I know, I was so excited. I was so excited about that. So yay, I'm an NID customer, a treated water customer.
Okay. Feel the joy.
I am, and the pain.
Right. Karen?
I attended the Pineman, meeting with Greg, and I've been grappling with helping customers with water supply issues, which I think is reflective of just some system issues on the property owner's part, but also just trying to keep the system as, maximizing our water. And it's, there's just this delicate balance that isn't always perfect, but everyone is cooperative in trying. Oh, and I forgot to mention something. I mentioned that we have hosted a fundraiser at our house for Nevada County AAUW. We raised $28,000, which will go directly to scholarships for women and girls in Nevada County.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
I think it was last week, we met with PCWA at Hemphill.
Oh, that's right. I knew we were missing something. We did.
So that was a nice exchange. We took them down to Hemphill, had a lot of conversation about fish and fish passage. Looks like there's definitely some interest on both sides to work together on projects and share information, what works, what doesn't, what can save money and save fish. So that was good. I really enjoyed it. Those are good guys. He's got a good team there. Other than that, I found catfish in between my two ponds. I've never put catfish in my ponds. I'm wondering how it got in there. So
Was it alive?
There's tons of them, yeah. So somewhere in the ditch, there's catfish in the NID ditch.
How was dinner?
I don't eat those fish. Keep them for the grandkids.
All right. Any more? Okay. So, yeah, Sierra College was somewhat illuminating. We're trying to get more vocational things going on there. It's great. I also learned that the pond project initiative, Congressman Kiley's coming to the farm in August.
Awesome.
To check out the ponds. Brianna Bacon and Pamela Grant, Brianna's with RCD, and she's doing an incredible job getting this thing moved forward. She has state agencies. We're going to learn more, Tracy and Aaron and I today at 1 o'clock, learn more, but she is really moving the needle on this one. So, has potential. Monday I went to Energy Action Committee. 2019, the Board of Supervisors formed this committee to help respond to state mandates, federal mandates on energy, and their meeting. And so I went there and presented and opened the door basically for more communication. Talked to Greg about it, and he has all the answers. So it's great. So we'll be going back. And they want to know, how we're conserving water, energy, that type of thing. We are. So, anything else? Farm Bureau, a couple other things, but, all right. So we're adjourned.